Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the Bremont ALT1-C/CR in stainless steel and 43mm. You can see this chronometer chronograph and purchase it on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full listing for this Bremont ALT1 with additional accessories included in the sale, high resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this timepiece and our entire collection of Bremont watches. Now, the watch on my wrist is large and in charge. It's also an important early Bremont. The company, founded in 2002, did not begin to produce watches until 2007, and while production has now been moved entirely to its British facilities near London, the early watches were produced in Switzerland, making them something of a discontinued connoisseur series for fans of the Bremont brand. Now, this is arguably the bedrock model for the company. The ALT1 series of chronographs are the most immediately tied to the original vision of the English brothers, founders of the company and aviators in their own right. The watch features all of the styling hallmarks of Bremont, beginning with the ergonomic elements. Now, you can see the watch features the triptych case construction and the now fairly standard 43mm diameter on my 16cm circumference wrist. The watch is actually compact from lug to lug, though. For a 43mm watch, it's impressive that the span across the wrist is only 49.5, meaning though my wrist is 16cm in circumference, I believe you could wear this watch on a wrist as small as 14.5cm in circumference with proportion and security. The only hang-up, and it's only a hang-up for your dress cuff, is the thickness of the watch, which is 16.2mm. Not bashful, best worn with a flight suit. The timepiece has a raffish stance on the wrist, refined, a little bit irreverent. Yes, it has some historic cues, but it's not a retro watch. It's almost postmodern, a 21st century luxury reimagining of what a mid-century aviator-style tool watch might have looked like. Now, the watch features a substantial aviator-style leather strap. You can see generously bolstered down the center. It is calfskin. It features semi-curved spring bars to allow closer drilling of the strap to the case. By moving the pivot point inboard, you allow the watch to wear well on a small wrist, as there's no constraint on the movement of the strap, and you can pull it straight down. Again, the ergonomics are strong with this one. A contrasting stitch nicely matches the off-white, somewhat, I would say, slightly custard tone of the dial, and you can see that there's a folded edge with a calfskin underlay and a more natural calf tone. You'll also note that the watch features a full Bremont deployant clasp, which is not standard fitment on the brand's timepieces. So it's a luxurious addition that provides absolute security while donning or removing at bedside. It's actually far more substantial than most deployant clasps I've experienced, which tend to be a little bit spindly. This one has enough metal in it that you could probably craft an entire ultra-thin dress watch out of it. It's hefty and impressive, and with the twin trigger action, it's not friction fit. It can't accidentally pop open. You must positively release it. The watch features a case known as the triptych construction. So what you have is the separation of the case band itself from the structure of the lugs. That's how the lugs can be made so short cropped in relation to the diameter of the watch. 50mm lug to lug would be a conventional span for a modern 40mm round watch. The fact that this is just under 50 lug to lug, despite being 43, is purely a product of the ergonomic logic of this triptych design. Now, what it is satin finished stainless steel. Form aside from the function, it also has a striated center that is DLC coated to provide total contrast. And just as you have the tonal contrast, it visually separates the structure of the midcase from the teardrop lugs. The rest of the watch is rather minimalist. As you can see from overhead, the lugs drop away. The bezel is relatively narrow to expand the dial as much as possible for function's sake, but also for high style, as a more visible pilot-style dial does give the watch character. Now, you'll also note that the black on, shall we call it, custard printing is highly distinct. You can read the watch at a glance. So in terms of its original mission, instrument or tool style watch, it's very much a success on that basis. Now, its vintage reference, the use of a double register dial, actually provides the watch a little bit more elegance, readability, and removes some of the elements that conventionally crowd a chronograph dial. Unless you truly need to time intervals in excess of 1 hour, this is pretty much perfect. In fact, you rarely need to time intervals in excess of 30 minutes, as that is the largest register on the watch. It cleans up the dial and it removes the cramping that you sometimes see on chronographs, allowing a large and shapely ray haut to impinge a little bit on the dial without clustering the registers too close together. Now you'll note that the ray haut slopes down nicely to unify the bezel with the plane of the dial. It also mounts applications of superluminova, so though these are printed Arabic numerals, nevertheless you can easily read the dial at night. Now the registers feature a sort of anthracite metallic grain. They're not black and they're not silver. We'll call it anthracite, and that works. There's a shock of red on the lollipop style counterweighted chronograph seconds hand, and the chronograph pushers on this one are meaty. There's absolutely no play. The action is solid and crisp. In spite of the fact that it is a cam chronograph mechanism, it feels well tuned. Again, not all cam chronographs are created equal, and this is one of the best. Now you'll also note the discrete date window at 6 o'clock for that practical information. What are we talking? What's under the hood? Well, it's essentially a Valjoux 7750 with a twin register layout, and one of the registers a 30 minutes layout. So the timepiece has a automatic winding action, unidirectional for high efficiency, characteristic of the 7750. It's a COSC chronometer grade of the caliber with 25 joules. This is pretty much as good as an ETA 7750 gets without extensive modification. Nick and Giles English have decided to highly customize the look. As you can see, Bremont has its own rotor design, but it also has a bit of an idiosyncratic finish to the movement itself, with blued screws, perlage on bridges, and many polished elements, including the cam or shuttle structure that operates the chronograph mechanism. It's robust, it has hacking seconds, it does have a screw-down crown, so you have to thread it out in order to set the watch, set the date, or hack the seconds and stop the balance for synchronization. But the flip side is that this aviator-style timepiece is also an accomplished swimmer with 100-meter water resistance, and there is a quick set for the date as well. It oscillates at 28,800 vibrations per hour, which is a contemporary beat rate. It's tough as nails, it's handsome, and as one of the Swiss-made flight of Bremont watches, it's essentially a discontinued series of their most important and one might even say core references. This, alongside the Martin Baker, essentially is Bremont, and if you were to own just two, you'd have an ALT1 and you'd have a Martin Baker. You can get your collection up to 50% by visiting and purchasing this one on our website.